Welcome to the Informed Pregnancy and Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Elliot Berlin, and you have tuned into the after episode of an informed pregnancy before and after birth story. My guest today is fellow New Yorker who now lives in Venice, California. When we last sat down for a chat, she was nearly due for a planned home birth with her first baby. She has now had her baby and is returning to share her experience. Erica Ciccone Clancy, congratulations.
Thank you,
And
Dr.
welcome
Berlin.
back to the podcast.
It's great to see you. It's been
It's
a long
so
6
good to
weeks
see you.
without you.
I saw you so much leading up to the birth, and then there was no Erica, and it felt kind of like crickety.
Yeah.
Even though there's a lot of other people who I love. But gosh, your energy is so big and so New York. I relate to it like a sister.
Thank you. I missed you. I thought of you.
I feel like the last time I really spoke to you, you were like knee deep in labor. But before we get to there,
Yep.
what happened in the final weeks of your pregnancy?
You know, it's so interesting to think back to that because it's a little bit of a blur.
Yeah. Well, you're right now 6 weeks.
I'm
postpartum.
6 weeks postpartum. Yep. And I did my best version of the first 40 days. So I'm just sort of coming out of it now. And driving here, like I said to you a minute ago, it felt like I was like drinking and driving. Because the sleep deprivation is definitely something that you can't prepare for. As much as you can prepare for everything else, you can't prepare for no sleep. And driving under those conditions are interesting. So I'm glad I made it here.
Yeah, me too.
But I do miss you. The last final weeks was a lot of the same as the weeks leading up to it. I was, eating really well and doing lots of beautiful prenatal yoga and seeing you.
You're also a busy professional. You're
I
a
am.
producer.
I worked up till the Friday before I gave birth.
Wow.
Yeah. I was even doing some work the morning of the birth because I just felt like I wanted to keep things as normal as possible until it was go time.
In your life?
In my life.
Just like keep life as it is until it changes. You like that
fast
black and
hard.
white. Yeah.
Exactly. All or nothing. Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I was due on a Sunday. I worked up to that Friday. I was due on a Sunday, and I woke up that morning thinking, like, today's not the day.
On your due date?
On my due date, yeah. I just had a weird feeling. It just wasn't quite there. It was 40 weeks, and I'm like, okay. I'm going to have this beautiful carefree day with my husband, So, all the errands had been run. The nursery had been set in my typical sort of type A OCD way of doing things. Everything was ready the morning I woke up on my due date. And so I just welcomed this really beautiful day with my husband. We went to brunch. We went to the beach. We took a couple photos down by the water and put our toes in the freezing cold, sand and just enjoyed each other, which was really nice. Got ice cream and just kind of hung out.
How were you feeling physically at that time?
That entire weekend, I was starting to feel energy run through my body. I know we texted a little bit over that weekend, and I was definitely feeling shifts. And by that Sunday, went to bed thinking, let's see what happens in the morning. And I did. I woke up on Monday morning, and it was the first day of my official maternity leave. And I went into this really crazy self-care mode. Like this, I'm going to go get my nails done, and I'm going to go get a blowout, and I'm going to go get my car washed, and I'm going to go do the food shopping list.
More than self-care, that sounds like my to-do.
Yeah, it's just like a normal Monday to-do list, Like my cleaning ladies came, and they looked at me, and one of them is like a little older and a little witchy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean by witchy? She kind of looked at me and she was like, oh, you should go lay down. You look really tired. And I was like, no, I'm keeping busy today. I'm doing everything I can do to keep busy. And I'd felt things like a little bit of blood, a little bit of mucus. Things were definitely happening over the weekend. But not until that Monday did I really feel like today might be the day, or actually tonight might be the night. I always envisioned myself giving birth at night. So I was more so like, tonight might be the night. So let me do all these crazy things and keep busy.
But it's interesting because on Sunday you woke up and said, today's not the day.
Right.
Or tonight's not the night. And Monday you're like, this
I
feels
just felt
different.
like, I felt
even
totally
though you
different.
weren't in labor.
I was not in labor. But looking back on it, I think while I was getting my nails done, I was very sleepy. Mm-hmm. I kept closing my eyes, being very sleepy. And I spoke to my midwife, Monica, and she said, okay, let's just keep in touch. They're all very calm, okay, you sound great. Let's just see how the day goes, And then by Monday night, about 5:30, my husband put on the football game. And I don't watch football. Like, I'll sit with him as he watches. But that was like my timestamp, the 5:30 football game. Because then by the end of the football game, things started getting progressively more intense.
But picked up during?
It did. And it was like a weird calming feeling to listen to the football announcers. Like I was laying on the couch and I had my maternity pillow kind of between my legs and I was just relaxing. And as the game went on, things sort of like started progressing and getting more intense. By the end of the game, I guess that was about 8:30, 9 o'clock, I was moving around my house. I was so thankful to be home because I was so comfortable and just so happy to lean over my kitchen island and suck on an electrolyte pop that my husband made earlier in the day and go out my backyard and get some air. I was in my bathroom a lot. Like I felt this really happy relaxation being on my toilet. Like not like pooping, just like
sitting on it.
Sitting on the toilet. Like there was just like this really calming, relaxing feeling.
Did it feel Pavlovian, like when you sit on that seat?
Yes.
You're just used to opening up and
relaxing.
relaxing.
I read that in Ina May's book, and I was like, that totally didn't make sense then, but made sense in the moment.
In that moment.
Yeah, so many things, like all the classes and all the stuff that you do, things that you read, you don't remember any of that when you're in labor. Right? But like looking back afterwards and you're like, oh yeah, that made sense. When you're able to like gain a little bit of perspective looking back on it. So
I'm curious if you felt your rational brain kick in or shut off or both. Like, because you said you don't remember any of that, but it doesn't mean it's not there. It just means you may not be using that part of your brain that thinks about facts, figures, and details.
I think it was more like the next day when I sat and was writing out my birth story. I wanted it to be really fresh in my brain, so I just started writing things out. That all the memories started coming back up, and having conversations with my doula and my midwife and my husband and all these little things that I would talk to them about spurred a little memory. So in the moment, I wasn't remembering it. It was when I looked back on it. Did I really remember?
It was there.
These little things. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Out of curiosity, did you film your birth?
I didn't film my birth. My husband's a very talented still photographer. So he shot a lot of photos.
I'm always curious in retrospect when you look back at photos too and video, if it looks in the pictures like it felt while you were going through it.
Yes.
It does.
Yes. As I was, getting ready to come here, I looked back on the photos to kind of help me jog my memory a bit as to what I was feeling in those. And I'm glad I have the photos. I think even as a television producer, everybody was like, are you going to film it? What camera are you going to use? What lens are you going to use? I'm like, I'm just going to let my husband... and I think that really made him calm, for him to have a task, to sit beside the bed and sit and shoot photos. It kept him in the moment because when everything started going down, it was just me and my ladies. It was my midwives and my doula and myself. And to give him a task that he was comfortable and creative in really helped the situation. He's pretty calm. He's very mellow, very, very calm throughout the whole process, from the moment we found out we were pregnant until just now when I was leaving him home with the 6-week-old baby. He's very, very calm. His instincts are spot on. And so it was nice to have him be the one shooting those photos.
And it's not just something to do, but it's something to do that also, I'm just envisioning for myself that if you're trying to capture the labor, then you're really focused on you and what you're doing and what you're experiencing. Trying to capture those emotions also puts us in there in a different way.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome to have that.
So now after the football game, when things start to pick up in your Pavlovian throne, in your mind, are you like, yes, I'm in active, this is labor for me?
Yes, I did. But when I spoke with my midwife and my doula, and even when you called, I loved that you called and having your familiar voice, and we shared a kind of an inside joke. It just calmed me and made me really happy to know I had all these people around me. But at the time, it was just my husband and I at home, and I loved that. I loved being able to labor at home with just him and I kind of delayed even calling my doula, who I adore, until I think my water broke is probably when I made Dave call Patty. I knew I was in active labor. But everybody was like, just relax and maybe take a nap, maybe have a snack. And I'm like, no, I'm like in it. Like, I know I'm a first-time mom, and I'm sure, you know, they get a lot of the phone calls and they get over there and they're like 2 centimeters. And you're like, hey, I knew I was getting close to go time. You know, like I was still describing when you and I spoke, I must have been at 6 or 7 centimeters. And I feel like we had a normal-ish conversation.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think? I'm interested. Do you remember our conversation? It was short, but do you remember
I remember, yeah. I was actually, I think that's what I was driving into Hillary Duff.
No shit.
To get her post-birth interview on what her birth was like.
Oh, that is so funny. I love that episode, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, she's amazing. And so I was driving in there, and I had gotten the message that you were in labor, and I just wanted to touch base with you and just see where you are and see how you're doing.
I was able to have a conversation with you.
We talked for a couple of minutes, and then it was clearly between surges when we were talking.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of it, it sounded like the next one was coming in. And you're like, you know, Erica out. And you sounded strong to me. You sounded just like I thought you would sound, like you were plowing through it on your own, bull by the horns.
Yeah.
But then a piece of you, just from what it sounded on the phone, a piece of you sounded like, you know, I could almost hear in your voice, like, how much longer is this going to be going on?
You know, because you have no baseline.
Right.
You're like, this could be a 2 centimeter surge, or this could be a 9. Like, you just have no baseline when you're a first time.
But that's exactly. You didn't say anything verbally about it, but that's what I heard in your voice. It sounded to me like you were progressing.
Oh yeah.
But that you weren't sure, and I couldn't know. You know where you were on that timeline.
Yeah, and neither did I. I just knew that I was happy to be home. I was in contact with all my people, and when shit was hitting the fan, like my husband knew how it was going to go down, who he was going to call first, second, and third, you know? So I think when I went into the bathroom probably for the 15th time that evening, my water broke, and it was like a weird popping noise and a short burst of fluid.
Okay.
It wasn't how I pictured my water breaking being.
A popping that you can hear, or a popping that you can feel?
I guess it was feel.
Okay.
I think it was both. I think it was maybe a little odd. Yeah, it was definitely like hearing and yes. There you go. And I was like, Dave, let's call Patty. My amazing birth doula, who, you know, it was like my angel throughout my entire pregnancy. I know you've had her on the show before.
Patty Quintero, we have an episode with her, yeah.
Uma Mother, Patty Quintero. You know, Patty came over and she said, I'm going to ride out the next contraction with you and sort of determine, you know, because the doulas know. You know, the doulas know.
Yeah, she's been through so many births. You can tell a lot just by your noises, your face, your body. And she knows you.
She knows me really well.
She does yoga with you, and she really knows you well.
Exactly. Like, we had spent the last 6 months together doing yoga, preparing for the birth. So she knew my body. She knew my breathing. So I was very lucky to have somebody that intimately knowledgeable.
Do you remember what time that was?
I think that was like around 10:30, maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock.
So long after the game.
Yeah. So the game ended like 8:30, and then there was another like hour or 2 hours. The time frame is really
blurry.
And so she's like, I'm going to ride out this next contraction with you. And, you know, she came into my house and she was just calm, and she reassured me I was safe and loved. And, you know, we rode out a contraction together on the yoga mat. We had the rebozo out, all of the tools. And after that contraction, she looked at my husband and she goes, I think it's time to call the midwife,
really?
To actually come here. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I'm further along than I thought I was. Amazing. And then Patty said, are you interested in getting in the shower? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And it was a fucking game changer.
Oh, really?
Oh, my God. I don't know how that's not like a thing that everybody does. Like, getting in the shower was the best thing I did.
Was it shower versus bath on purpose?
Well, my midwife wasn't there yet with the birth
so you didn't
tub.
want to submerge
I didn't have the birth tub there
Oh,
yet.
you didn't even have the tub set up?
No.
Okay.
Like we had the space, but we didn't have it set up yet. It was coming with
Your
my
midwife.
midwives, right? So,
And was it the heat of the shower?
Yes.
It felt good.
it was
on you?
everything. It was the heat, the steam, the shower head.
Massaging.
Yeah, massaging my back. My husband ran to our garage and
Well,
got.
that's why you didn't call me.
Because I was in the back.
You're the shower head massaging your
shower.
back.
It was great.
I was replaced.
Exactly. I know. You know what? I feel.
I'm so glad that you didn't. You sounded good on the phone.
Yeah.
Because we had talked to you. You're like, I might call you.
I just wanted you to be there because I felt like, you were like this big part of this whole journey, and it just would have been nice to like have some soup and hang out with you or something. I don't know.
Well, we can always have soup.
We can.
and hang out.
Okay. Good. So my husband went to the garage and got one of our wetsuits and put it under my knees, and I was just like loving being in the shower. It was amazing. And at one point I was like shaking, even though I was in a warm shower. There was so much adrenaline pumping through my body. I was shaking uncontrollably. And when that adrenaline starts, you're like, holy shit, this is going to happen. Like at one point I felt like I was almost holding him in. Like that's how far along I was at that point. Like I felt like I was holding him inside me. Actually, at another point, I felt like he was going to come out of my ass. Like I was like, I think, like I put my hand up. I'm like, I think he may have went down the wrong tube. Like I think I might shit out my baby in this bathtub right now because nobody really tells you that there's so much
back pressure,
rectal pressure. Sorry, I'm being very candid.
Well, I mean,
or
people
very
want to know what to expect. So.
My poor child, if he listens to this in 10 years, my mom thought I was going to come out of her ass. But that's really what I felt. Like, it was intense. And then I kept saying to my husband, when is Monica going to get here? And he's like, she's close. And I'm like, okay. And Patty and I ran through another contraction. She was kneeling next to me. And I'm like, babe, is she here yet? And he's like, she's close. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, so I was a little still in my frontal brain, like, what does that mean? How far away is she? And then literally on cue, I heard the door open and she was there. So.
All right. Hold on one second. First of all, when you describe that shaking,
that
hormonal triggered shaking.
Yeah.
I remember the first birth I was at where I saw that. So I was not trained to be a doula. I went to my wife's birth. She didn't really shake like that. And that's it. I got called to a birth for the first time because a baby was stuck. And I thought, hey, maybe this guy can help open up the pelvis a little bit with massage and adjusting. And as it turned out, it worked pretty well.
Nice.
So then I got called to another one. And I think it was that third birth I was ever at. Again, not a doula, no doula training, not really a birth guy. Birth guy is even a weird term. And this woman just started shaking, like seizure-like shaking to me.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, what's wrong? And I was like, and then I turned around, the nurse was there just doing her old, ho-hum. I'm like, don't you see the seizure that's going on here? Like she was full body shaking hardcore. And I think that's also something that sometimes people don't talk about. That's just it's a thing. It's a phases, the big hormone shifts, surges that go through your body.
Right.
Make you shake like that. Now, the other thing is we're midway through our episode.
Yep.
So we're going to take a quick,
okay.
Let's Monica's at the door is a great cliffhanger.
It is.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Informed Pregnancy Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Elliot Berlin, and we are back with Erica Ciccone Clancy sharing her birth story. And when we left off, you're in the shower shaking.
I'm in the shower shaking.
Saying, where the hell is my midwife? And she's at the front door. What happens next?
She is. So my midwife came in and, she, like my doula, came into this scene very calmly and with confidence and very lovingly, which is, something that I think women that have births outside the home maybe don't have the luxury of having. So when she arrived, I felt very even more calm. That, even though I was shaking in the shower and I had lots of adrenaline and running through me, the minute she came, it almost was like this calm, more so came upon everybody, including my husband, which I think he was very excited when she finally got there. She took me out of the shower, and she was on the edge of my bathtub, and she said, how are you feeling? How are you doing?
I like how you even get into her
Sorry,
her mode
Monica,
of talking.
Monica. How are you doing? How are you feeling? She goes, I want you to take your fingers and put them like down by your vagina and tell me what you feel. I was like, I don't even need to put my fingers anywhere. I can tell you what I'm going to feel. I mean, say that to her, but in my mind, I'm like, girl, I know what's down there. And so I entertained her. I put my fingers down there, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's a head. I've never done this before, but I'm pretty sure that's a head. And she's like, okay, that sounds good. Let's go into your bedroom. I'm going to check you. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. So we go in and we go on our bed. And she's like, so you're fully dilated.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, yes, fuck yes. Like, if she would have told me I was 3 centimeters, I would have lost my mind.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I literally got from 0 to 10 basically with just my husband and then with a little bit of help from my doula. Yeah. I was like, it is game on. Like, let's get weird. Like, I'm ready. Like, I was all on my hands and knees. She's like, are you ready? You want to start pushing? You think you want to start pushing? I'm like, yeah, let's start pushing, And so I got on my bed and I went on all fours, which felt very natural to me. Ironically, that's how a lot of our prenatal yoga classes start, like cat, cow, you're on your hands and knees. It felt very, very organic. My doula, Patty, was in front of me, and we kind of like locked forearms. I was on my hands and knees and then up on my knees, down on my hands and knees and then up on my knees. And I felt like the gravity of being on my knees was super helpful. And my husband was there on the side of the bed taking photos, like I mentioned before, and everything was happening very quickly. I had this thought in my mind about how everything was going to go down. Like, we were going to do massage and the essential oils and the diffuser and the music. And it was just like, no, like, let's start pushing. Let's get down to business. And
so you didn't use any of that stuff before Patty came?
Not really. A little bit of the yoga ball, yoga mat, the rebozo, which was also a game changer. We learned, I took a class with Britta Bushnell, and also with Patty, we learned how to use the rebozo to relieve some pressure in my belly.
I think a lot of people might not know what rebozo is. It's like a big Mexican shawl.
Exactly.
And the midwives have lots of different ways to use it to... Yeah, like you said,
take pressure off certain areas of your body, so that was really helpful. But it all happened so quickly that like all the bells and whistles kind of went out the window. Like, we didn't even have time to set up the birth tub. We just didn't need it. Yeah. It just like, I just labored at home. Like, it was just as simple as that. I was around my house and my husband did the hip push, to get me through some of those really intense ones.
Does it feel good during the intense ones? Or?
It did. It definitely helped for sure. And I kept describing the contractions as moderate, even though I was like 9 and 10 centimeters. So I think I also just have a really high threshold for pain, which
that doesn't surprise me.
Very thankful for. I think we talked about the pain. Like, do you think you have a high threshold for pain? And I think women just don't know until you're in it. But I think I do. And not to say it was easy, but it was manageable because I think I had a lot of confidence because of all the tools and all the knowledge I had. You know what I mean?
You prepared for it.
I was very prepared for it, and I don't want to come off as showboaty or like I had the most perfect, dreamy, magical birth. But like, I want women out there to know that if you put the time in and the preparation, you could have this magical birth. There's so much fear around birthing your baby that I think the more stories like mine that people hear, they can say, I can do all those things too.
So here's 2 interesting things. First of all, in our before episode, when I asked you about what made you interested in home birth, you said that it was described to you as magical. And here you are describing your experience as magical.
Yeah, it was super dreamy. It was magical versus massacre.
Right, that's what you talked about. So I'm glad it was magical,
yes,
given the alternative.
Massacre-like.
But then, I just always kind of like to point out, because birth is kind of unpredictable
Totally.
in some ways, and you can't always control the factors that come up. And I think for someone who wonders whether or not this magical home birth is a possibility for them, that it's okay to aim for that. And then at some point, if you want to or have to change your plan, that's okay too.
Absolutely.
Or go down your birth plan. But I think that a lot more people could aim for this magical experience at home or at a birthing center or at a hospital and get there, then believe that they can do that.
Right, exactly. And if like a crazy Italian New Yorker, transplant can do it, I'm pretty sure so can you, because again,
So we're still just on the bed pushing.
Yeah, so I pushed for about 20 minutes, I have to say. It was pretty quick. By the time his head was, he was starting to crown, and the burning sensation is real. And my midwife was so amazing that she coached me through every moment. And so did my doula. Like, she would tell me when to sort of push and sort of accelerate and when to kind of like stand down, and then the burning, she's like, it's okay. It's your skin stretching. Let it be. Bear it for a moment, and then let's, wait for the next contraction, and almost like use the energy of the contraction to help you push. And my doula kept saying, keep your sound in. Like instead of like being very boisterous like you are in labor, she's like, keep your sound in and bear down and use all that energy to push out. And then she also said, there's this exercise we do in her prenatal classes where you're breathing out and then like expanding and contracting certain muscles in your stomach. Like she would say, hug your baby, breathe out, breathe in, and then hug your baby. So just that little bit of like reminder sort of helped me get him into a place where, his head came out. And then I had this insane moment where he was like half inside me and half outside. It's like so fucking trippy.
His head was already out.
Like his head was out, but his body was still inside me, and I could feel him moving. So he was like inside but outside,
Yeah.
And then I just sort of like, moved my hips and my pelvis to kind of like, he kind of scurried out. And I, in my mind, was like having a conversation with him. I was like, I love you, buddy. We're in this together. You want this to happen. Like, we want to meet each other. We're a team. Let's get this going, It was crazy. Like, I literally had a conversation with him.
How long did that weird moment last, that interesting moment last?
Maybe a minute or so. I was really trying to, like, be in the moment. My doula kept saying, you're birthing your baby. Like, this is the moment. This is it. Like, enjoy it, as
Hubby's
your
still
vagina
taking
is
pictures?
burning.
Yeah.
Dave is still snapping
Snapping
away.
away pictures.
Still snapping away. And I see my facial expressions change in each frame and his head coming out. And then, it was, the pushing part was intense. That was the most intense part, was the burning and the feeling of a human being half in you and half out of you. It was pretty cool. And then there he was. And then Monica's like, pick up your baby. I'm like, what? Huh? What am I supposed to do now? Like, he's just there. And you're like looking at this thing that was just inside you moments ago. And it was just completely surreal. And I pick him up and there's blood everywhere. And he's covered in the vernix. And it's magical. It's magical. I was the first one. Like, she obviously helped me birth him, but once he was on my very expensive Casper mattress that's still not paid off, on top of 9 layers of waterproofing and shitty sheets from Target, I pulled him up and held him, and it's the most intense moment. It's very cool. And then you're just in your bed and you're like, hey, I'm in the delivery room
We're home.
in my home. So very cool.
In your career as a competitive gymnast, you said that you would push through the pain and almost welcome the pain because you knew it was helping you make progress.
Yep.
Did that kind of training and background help you through birth, do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the confidence I had in my preparation was something that I learned through gymnastics. Knowing that on the day of, things are completely out of your hands and completely unpredictable, and you sort of just have to be okay with the way things turn out because you did all the work, and things could go any way. Pushing through the pain, yeah, I mean, pain equals progress in labor, right? So, like, I wanted the heavy contractions. I wanted to be shaking. I wanted that adrenaline. I wanted that burning. Like, I feel like the more I didn't fight it, the more progress I made. So, yeah, pushing through the pain and almost welcoming the pain and having a good sense of humor about it. Like, getting through a really intense contraction and looking at my husband and be like, that fucking sucked. Like, holy shit, here comes another one. Get your ass over here. Get your hands on my hips. Like, let's get to it, you know?
I think I told you that about you before you went into labor, was that having that sense of humor, that ability to like laugh at things like that just is really helpful because pain is great. It's not a bad thing per se if you know that you're safe. But
Correct.
if the pain makes you feel fearful, then your body magnifies the pain and how you feel, and also it closes up against it, fights it.
Right, exactly.
So when you embrace the pain in a way that's like, oh, that's not harming me, that's good for me. But then can also laugh. So when you're laughing, your body knows you're not in danger.
Right.
And
that's a benefit of having amazing
sense
birth
of humor.
workers. And right, amazing sense of humor. A really active partner, amazing doula, amazing midwives who make you feel calm and safe and loved. Because anything could have happened at that moment, I would still feel safe and happy and loved. You know what I mean? If they're like, the next best thing is to go to the hospital, I'd be like, okay, I'm still safe and I'm still loved.
You're surrounded by that cocoon.
Right, exactly. It's a lot of mindset. You have to sort of say, like, I'm strong. I can do this. My body knows what to do. I'm surrounded by the right situation, the right people. And whatever happens. You have to kind of be okay with it.
I think we struggle because if you watch other animals give birth, they don't have the same kind of ability to analyze and rationalize and wonder how much longer, where are we. They seem to not have that element of suffering that can be added by the mind struggle.
Right.
Did you have fear at any point? Did you feel fear bubble up?
I had no fear. I actually just asked Dave this before I left. I said, at any point, did I say I was scared? He said, nope. I said, did I say at any point, like, maybe we should think about going to the hospital? He said, nope. He's like, you were remarkable. Like, you weren't fearful for a moment. And again, I think every woman has that in her. I think it's so detrimental to this whole experience to have it be so fear-based. Like, I'm in such awe of people like you and my midwives and my doulas who are these huge advocates for like empowered birth experiences. You know what I mean? Like, there needs to be more conversation around the joys of birth. I was like looking forward to it. I was like, I can't wait for this to happen, you know? Like, I'm excited. Like, let's get to it, you know?
I do remember that also from our last prenatal visit is that you were mostly excited with maybe a trace of anxious, you know, but more about when than just wanting it to start than what it would be like. And by the way, I'm in awe of you who actually does it. I feel like my part's easy. I just talk about it. But
people like you give us the confidence, give women the confidence to say, I'm going to have this amazing birth experience no matter what happens. You know, I've done the body work. I've done the yoga. I've done the books, you know.
Yeah, so those things that you did before, and because you did a lot to prepare.
I did.
Your mind and your body.
I was, like, sad when my pregnancy was over. I love my baby, and he's a joy, and I can't picture what life was like before him. I'm one of those people now, but I loved being pregnant. I loved the whole process. I thought it was the most amazing, interesting, empowering thing I've ever done in my entire life. And I'm a successful producer. I run an amazing production company. I've been around the world. I've, you know, had many amazing accolades and experiences, but nothing compares to pushing out a human being. Nothing.
Nice. You're an accomplished producer. Now you're a very accomplished reproducer.
Reproducer.
Yeah. So there you
Good
go.
one.
Thank you.
That was a good one.
How is the afterbirth? So you get your baby out, you're holding your baby, and there's still work to do.
Sure. My placenta didn't come out as easily as I thought it was going to. It was a bit of a struggle, and I thought it was going to be easier than it was. Like, there was definitely a lot of massaging by my midwives on my belly to get the placenta out. There was definitely a good amount of bleeding. I don't think there was a moment where I thought I was in trouble, but almost when you hold the baby, the umbilical cord is obviously still attached. So when you're holding him, and I wanted to breastfeed him right away, I wanted to like have him latch on right away. Again, there's that inside body, outside of body experience where you feel your umbilical cord pulling on your placenta because you're holding your baby, right? But you still have your umbilical cord attached to your placenta. So I almost felt like it kind of tugging at it.
Did you not want to cut it?
We didn't until a while after. I don't think I birthed my placenta till like 30 or 40 minutes later.
And you were still connected.
Yeah. Like there was no cord clamping. Like that didn't exist. It was like that cord pulsed until there was nothing left, which was amazing as well. So birthing the placenta was tough because you're in this like beautiful place where you're just trying to enjoy your baby, and then like, oh well, now you need to birth an organ.
Yes.
And it came out, and you're just like, holy shit, like that was keeping my baby alive.
Isn't
and now
incredible?
It's outside my body in like the mixing bowl.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm always fascinated by the placenta.
I was too.
Like your body creates this disposable but life-sustaining organ to interface between you and the baby.
Yep.
It's mind-blowing. And then just spits it out.
Yep. And we like cut 2 pieces off, 2 big chunks. We have these great photos of my kitchen and this big chunks of placenta, and we made smoothies, which is what I ate right after, and then the next day, and then we sent it off to be freeze-dried and brought back in capsules. Yeah, I did the whole.
How was
eating the placenta.
Breastfeeding for you?
Challenging.
In what way?
Every way. I think maybe, I don't want to say breastfeeding is more intense than laboring, but laboring, there's a beginning and an end. And not that there's not a beginning and end of breastfeeding, but it's just challenging for somebody who's as active as I am and as independent as I am to kind of be tethered to another human being. I love breastfeeding, but it definitely is very challenging. He feeds every 2 hours. He's still kind of on that train where he's like, every 2 hours, I'm up.
I'm still on that train. I'm in my 40s.
It's like every 2 hours, and it's a beautiful thing. And again, my body is now nourishing another human being. And he was born at 7 pounds, 11 ounces. And 6 weeks later, he's 10'10". And
wow.
Just,
Miracle Grow.
He's a champ. Yeah, he's a chugger. It's just challenging. I can't really be specific on it. Just being tethered to a human being.
Yeah, it sounds like the mechanics are not that challenging for you. Meaning you're producing milk and you've got the latch down.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle challenge for you.
You hit it straight on the head on the nail. Yeah, it's the lifestyle change, and not trying to integrate your baby into your old life. It's more like creating this new life, of day-to-day occurrences. So it's beautiful. I love it. I'm not going to stop until he can say, "Mommy, I don't want it anymore." But we did a little bit of.
Mom, I'm late for college.
He's like, I'm out. Put that boob away. No, it's a beautiful thing. And we started introducing the bottle. I will go back to work in a few months, in a month or two. So we need to introduce the bottle and get him on that. But for now, it's all boob all the time.
Yeah. And also as he starts, soon, before you know it, he'll be eating other foods.
Right.
And less dependent on your milk production.
Right.
Are you planning to have more kids?
Let's see how this one goes, but absolutely.
No pressure to. I just wonder if you do have another pregnancy and birth, is there anything that you would do differently?
There's nothing I would do differently.
More chiropractic visits?
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, we did a lot, but we could do more. No,
who knows what it would have been like, but it sounds like your pelvis is open right up.
Yeah.
And because you're a competitive gymnast history, when I started working with you, your pelvis was so tightly wound up.
Yep, I remember.
And then by the end, it was like pretty loose and open. It was a big transformation.
Huge. And I felt it too. From those beginning appointments till I saw you a couple of days before.
Yeah.
I felt the change in my body physically happening. I definitely want to have more kids. I loved being pregnant. I loved giving birth to my baby. I love our little family, the whole process beginning to end. Even after, we got a postpartum doula, and that whole experience was really beautiful as well. Having somebody, I was like, what do you mean someone's going to be in my house for 45 hours a day, every day? Like, what are we going to do? Do I need to entertain her? But I had the most amazing postpartum doula, and we filled the hours with beautiful things, everything from processing the birth experience to sitz baths to, light massages and meditation and support, getting the breastfeeding. I think that's why I'm having such a success getting the breastfeeding going is because of my postpartum doula. She was really there for me emotionally, physically, spiritually.
It sounds like every step of the way, during pregnancy, during birth, and during postpartum, you really surrounded yourself with the right pieces that just gave you the support you needed and wanted when you needed and wanted it.
And I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I had the resources and the finances to do all the things that I did. I know everybody can kind of create their own version of what I did in their own way. These things are expensive. It's a big commitment, to say I'm going to have all these things, have all this support. Our family is on the East Coast, so it was hard for me to say I'm going to pay somebody to come to my house and take care of me as opposed to having my mom there. But having a professional and just having somebody that wasn't emotionally invested in a situation other than being there for you was really helpful. And I think it was good for my husband. She cooked us beautiful meals. We were able to bond with the baby and not have to worry about a lot of the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
I was really sad to see her go this week.
Oh, man. Every time we hired a postpartum doula, we said, let's do it for X amount of time. And then it was always 3 to 4 times the amount of time.
Exactly.
And we still were like, nah.
Yeah, you're like, how am I going to feel this time? And you're like, don't leave. Please don't leave. Can you move in?
But you made a great point, which is that it does, in some ways, it takes a village to raise a child. And we used to live in the village with the people all around us, just there. You didn't. But now sometimes, you're away from the village, and if you want that, you have to find other ways to get it. One way is to buy it, but there's other ways. I see a lot of our patients where they kick in for each other. They become each other's doulas, or they cook for each other. Or community might get behind you and do a meal train and things like that. That you said it pretty well, that everybody can do it on their own level. Right. And surround yourself with the support you need, in your own way. And for some people, it is family. They just love being around their family.
Right, exactly. Or, the family lives near them. For us, that wasn't a thing. It wasn't a luxury we had. So we sort of had to,
bring in the recruits.
Bring in the big guns. Yeah. Really cool.
Well, I am stoked. I mean, this is my first time hearing your story deliberately because, number one, you were in the cave. I was in the cave, yeah. And, that's something I highly recommend, too. Just sort of living on Bed Island. Yeah. Having your meals brought to the bed, just hanging with the baby. My husband had a really amazing paternity plan with his company where he was able to be home for many weeks. That's so nice.
He works for an Austrian-based company, and so they definitely allow the dads to take a good amount of time without pressure to get back to work, fully paid.
They do it different in Europe.
They do it differently in Europe. Yeah. So, we
don't even give the moms off time over here.
I know.
So you get, a few weeks and get back to work.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I'm inspired by you always. I was during your pregnancy. Berlin. I was during your birth planning. I was during my 2-minute phone call. 7 centimeters.
You were part of the story. You have your own page in the story.
Oh,
and then
amazing.
Dr. Berlin called. We shared an inside joke. It was magical. It was good.
You're a G.
Yeah. You're a G.
Did you have any closing thoughts?
I just want to give... It's so funny. I'm so New York. Can I give a shout out to my birth team?
Absolutely.
So, again, everybody can sort of create their own team of people, like you're saying, whether it's family, whether it's in the hospital, out of the hospital, birthing center, home, whatever works for you.
Strawberry field.
Sure, totally. It could be. Maybe I'm thinking about that. Maybe outside my house, on my deck.
With an outdoor heated shower.
Right, totally. Mm-hmm. We actually have one of those. We serve, so we have one of those. It's not heated, but I'm sure the cold water shower would be different. Not
going to be too good.
Not the same. I just want to give love to my team, anybody in LA that is looking for midwives. Los Angeles Midwife Collective, Monica Wood and Jennifer Brandon Ruiz are absolutely the best in the game, in my opinion. Patty Quintero, Uma Mother, prenatal yoga, and kind of birth goddess. Dr. Elliot Berlin.
Oh, I highly
Berlin
recommend
Wellness.
it. Yeah,
Highly
great things.
recommended. The Body Work. Game changer. My
thanks.
postpartum doula, Mother the Mother, McGowan, who's amazing. And then my girl Erica at 25/8, which is a food delivery service for prenatal and postnatal women. Her food came the morning I gave birth. And
Did she tell you the story?
Yes, she did. Well,
See, now it makes sense to me, but
I think the text messages came in late. Like, I wasn't on my phone.
Yeah, of
but my
course not.
husband was, like, kind of deciphering all the messages. And then Patty was like, is there food delivery here? I'm like, yes, it came this morning. It's in the fridge. And Erica Mock made this beautiful spread of food from her company, 25/8.
for laborers. So you had already taken
laborers.
it in the house?
It was, like, half on the porch, half in my fridge.
Oh, it's like your baby at the
It
end.
was. It was, like, half in, half out.
Yeah, because she called me when I was leaving Hillary. And she's like, do you know by any chance if Erica had her baby? I'm like, I just spoke to her an hour ago. She sounded like she was getting pretty close. She's like, do you know if by any chance they took
She
the
got the
food in
food.
from the porch? Because I made this amazing food that's going to be really nutrient rich and going to help everybody. And I'm like, and now it makes sense to me. You're probably at the edge of your bed with your baby half hanging out of you when she was texting me.
But we had this amazing moment, our whole birth team. Like, I'm still in my bed with my baby, and they're all, like, outside, like, there's music playing. They're, like, eating all my food. They're, like, they may have popped champagne. I don't know. I was, but the food is a game changer. Check out 25/8 food delivery service. A lot of love for Lori Bregman and Carmen Thomas. They were really cool people to kind of bounce. They're another postpartum and doula and birth doula team that I became close with through the process. And my acupuncturist, Adam Griffin at Accutonics in Venice, was wonderful as well. So that's my laundry list.
That's quite the community.
Right?
That's the village.
I was like, credit card bill.
No,
How
that
you
makes
doing?
sense.
And now I'm
Amazing.
broke.
I
Very
love
cool.
all those people.
Thank you.
And at the center of it is you. So thanks again for sharing your story. I'm
Thank you for
inspired
having me.
again by you. And I know that our audience writes back that these stories are very helpful. Just all different birth stories to give perspective and ideas on what could be.
Amazing. I love it. And I'll see you next week.
I'm looking forward to that. At
Postnatal
home,
body.
thanks for listening to our show. If you would like more pregnancy and postpartum resources, visit informedpregnancy.com.